Hello, my sweet friends. It is I, Dave Makes Noises, the Scott Stapp of D&D Storytime on YouTube. Get ready to pour one out for the homies because today we're asking, DMs, what was the most spectacular way one of your players has died? Part 1. So in one of our campaigns, we had a rogue who would get disadvantages on rolls if she got bored, resultant of crazy wild magic. In this campaign, I decided to have all the major plot points behind iron-plated doors because why not? Now, this rogue had just had brand new throwing knives forged and enchanted with a totaling cost for 2 of them around 2,500 gold pieces. She couldn't pay and f***ed the weaponsmith instead. Almost immediately after this, she was extremely bored waiting with the rest of the party outside one of the story doors and decided to throw one of her knives at the door. She rolled a nat 1, and with her disadvantages, she actually managed to roll -2. So she throws the knife, it bounces off the door, and cuts through her knee, and after even more truly horrendous rolls, she managed to sever an artery and bleed out and die. The rest of the party decided not to help her for fear of her awful luck spreading. Okay, so my dragonborn rogue and a human wizard were fighting a big bad evil guy in the sky. I had my own set of wings, and the wizard had a fly spell or something that let him fly. The rest of the party were fighting giant spiders down below. I got hit by 2 fireballs and failed my saves. Thank you for getting that part right. In a blaze of glory, I fell from the sky screaming, "For Stormfang!" That was my character's last name, Auric Stormfang. Landed on a spider and exploded. Died instantly, but felt so satisfied. Yeah, that hit the spot in the right kind of way. I like that. Small story. My rogue player was suicidal because he didn't like his character anymore. I told him the time would come. In the middle of combat later on, the party used dynamite since they were outnumbered. The enemies put out the fuse, so the rogue sacrificed himself to light the dynamite. So I was running my first campaign, and the players were running from the big bad evil guy's right-hand man, a killer clown who was a powerful sorcerer named Ronald McDonald. Okay, one of my players who was playing a homebrew dragonborn variant who could temporarily turn into a dragon. I believe the party was level 12 at the time. The character in question was a blood hunter, and her name was Freya. I make a perception check, rolls nat 20. Okay, you see a clown in the trees. I challenge the clown! Ronald McDonald flies up, casts a 9th level fireball, and instantly kills the character. His next character was my favorite one I've ever seen someone play. A Tabaxi cleric with a vendetta against the big bad evil guy. TLDR, player finds a McDonald's mascot, challenges him, and loses. Party is traveling through a ruined tomb and approach a corridor loaded with spiked pits, and along the right wall are arrow slits with kobold archers at the ready. Towards the end of the corridor, one of the players falls into the spikes, and another goes to save them, copping an arrow straight to the head, and 1 instant death fail from falling into the spikes unconscious. The player that originally fell in took this as an opportunity to use the other dying player as a platform to get out of the spikes, knowing well it would cost them another death fail. Luckily, the party went back for the corpse, and the cleric had prepared Raise Dead, but that player was a bit hesitant to help anyone out after that. Not too spectacular, but I rarely get a player death, so it's the best I've got. My friends were playing a Christmas one-shot versus Lich Lord Klaus. They all had great characters, if I do say so myself. We were playing an unfamiliar system, Pathfinder 2, so I made them. But the ones that matter here are Frost, an evil dragon reincarnated as a lizard folk after Klaus killed him, Ivy, sorcerer goblin child experimented on by Klaus and his wife, and Vilda Klaus, Snow Oracle and Klaus's illegitimate daughter. The party found a cabin with a talking cat and an elderly lady and rested for the night to wait out a blizzard. Ivy recognized the lady as the person who takes care of her and instantly trusted her. The lady offered the party drinks, but all except Ivy refused. Of course, this lady was Mrs. Klaus and tried to kill Wilda in the dead of night after her attempt to poison her with liquefied death curse failed. The party rallied together and fought Mrs. Klaus, a witch barbarian, eventually knocking her into single-digit HP. She jumped out the window and ran away, but Frost chased after her and decapitated her with his claws. When the party woke up the next morning, the entire house was covered in cat piss, and there were hundreds of cats in the cabin, walking in and out of cat door-shaped portals. Frost's player had a bad habit of sticking their hands and head into portals in our main game. I should have expected what followed. Frost:
I stick my head into a cat portal to see where it goes.
Me, DM: You stick your head in? Frost:
Yup, what do I see?
Me: Well, the rest of you see the portal close, instantly decapitating Frost. The party went into shock. and some argued that he should at least get a reflex save or something, but Frost's player admitted that was entirely their fault. Of course, I wasn't going to leave the party down a member halfway through a 10-hour game, or make that player watch for 5 hours. The talking cat reappeared and formed a witch's pact with the party alchemist to resurrect both Frost and Mrs. Klaus on the condition that neither party try to harm each other again. TLDR, Evil Dragon got killed again when he stuck his head into a portal made by the familiar of the witch he just killed, then was hostage exchanged back to life. In the first and still ongoing campaign I've been playing since I was 12, I'm 24 now, the party is a human paladin and a half-elf fighter mage, me. We were riding horseback across a large field when a mountain behind us suddenly got up and started walking. Turns out it was a dragon turtle that was just napping and started walking to where the closest sea was, which, of course, was in the direction we were riding. So I ride to the left out of the path of the giant-ass turtle, and my party mate rode to the right. It's at this point the DM tells him he won't make it to the other side of the path in time to avoid the turtle, but instead of staying in the middle, he starts riding back towards me. Then the DM narrates, "As you are riding back to Damien, you are shrouded in darkness, and as you look up, you see the foot of the dragon turtle comes down, and you no longer feel." I had to scrape this man and his horse off the grass and have the DM PC that is there, purely because this kind of thing happens a lot to us. TLDR, Paladin tried to race a turtle and lost. I was playing through Tomb of Annihilation with my 2 younger brothers and a friend. My 2 brothers were a silver dragonborn barbarian and a brass dragonborn wizard artificer, and my friend was a druid/ranger elf. They were climbing a firefinger and had reached the top, and they took care of the terrafolk that were waiting there. The artificer wizard wanted to try and level the structure by flicking it. Rolled a goddamn 20. The firefinger was collapsing, and the 2 dragonboards had succeeded on the rolls to make it down safely. The elf wasn't so lucky. He was running down the side of the collapsing tower when he got his foot taken off by a wyvern that decided to swoop in. He then failed the subsequent dexterity check and tripped, breaking his neck as he rolled limply to the bottom of the structure. He then failed all of his death saves and died. The other 2 unified him in his barrow home in the jungle and got a golden statue made in his honor in the middle of town. The barbarian now goes to his memorial every day to replace the flowers in the vases around the memorial with fresh ones. TLDR, unlucky elf dies like a boss and gets a statue made in his honor. No deaths yet, but we have had a few enter death saves in spectacular ways. The Bard took a high-level magic missile, point blank to the face. The team mascot/lovable pet, a Labrador cross golden retriever, went into death saves while valiantly fighting the Avatar of Death, but the one that is most spectacular so far was the most recent one. One of the rogues and the druid decided to go on their own adventure, and the players brought in a wizard and a monk, respectively, as temporary team members. The party had to make its way over a mountain range to meet up with an acquaintance that stopped communicating. Didn't even reply to the message spell. Setting out on this quest, we had Val, Tiefling Bard, Aka, Tabaxi Rogue, Ashen, Tabaxi Ranger/Cleric, Entret, Firbolg Monk, Bruce, High Elf Wizard, Frederick, Human Mage/NPC Quest Giver. The first few days over the mountains were uneventful. Snow all around, and 2 Tabaxi, who would be the runts of their respective litters, having the fun of running in snow, very much akin to Merry and Pippin in the mountain scene in Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. Until they camped one night inside the Bard's tiny hut, and I, as DM, rolled for the morning weather. It wasn't a 1, but given how the previous days had been on the foul side of fine, the number the D20 gave me was enough to convince me that there would be something as they wake up. Ashen and Bruce were quick to awaken and decided to prank each other with snow and ended up covering the entire hut with it. Val was the next to wake up, and as he moved outside the hut, all the snow fell on everyone else. But as the party all had their rude awakening, a distant rumbling made sure they wouldn't complain about it. An avalanche was heading straight towards them, but with quick thinking by Ashen, everyone was safe inside a rope trick as the avalanche settled. No death saves. Damn! Now things turned interesting. The party had to wade through a thick layer of soft snow. So thick, in fact, that neither Tabaxi could see above it, but Ahak, being the smallest, was just light enough to score a piggyback ride with Val, who used his powers of bardness to just walk over the snow. The rest trudged through that snow, burning spell slot after spell slot, cantrip after cantrip, to make a path with fire melting the freshly laid walls of their impromptu maze, until the Bard had a bright idea. Reaching into his bag of holding, he pulled out a rug and cast Levitate on it. Ashen, Bruce, and Entret all climbed on, and I ruled it was fair use of the spell. Now, the Bard just had to give the rug, turned makeshift toboggan, a good old push to keep it moving. You can probably see where this is going. Cue one intense and impromptu and insanely deadly slalom as the rug toboggan goes over the edge and down the side of the mountain. This way and that, barely missing jagged rocks by mere millimeters. Ashen nearly broke her bow, using it to slow down the toboggan. Bruce and Entret, channeling his elemental monk abilities, eventually put enough firepower to slow the toboggan enough that they could crash safely just on the outskirts of the mountain village they were heading for. Still no death saves, and now they are at their destination. Val and Akka appeared shortly after in all of Val's cheesy, bardy glory. Now, if you were paying attention to the story at this point, you would ask the same question as the party did. Only 5 of the 6 of them had arrived. Where was Frederick? You see, since waking up that morning to now arriving at the village, no one thought to ask if Frederick survived the avalanche. No one bothered to see if they was struggling with the snow. No one offered them a lift on the road. Val sent a message spell to Frederick. Frederick, are you okay? Apologies if we had forgotten about you. Please send me a message and I will come and get you. Me as Frederick. Look out below! Me as DM. Everyone roll a dex save. Everyone jumped out of the way. Everyone managed to avoid Frederick as she came sliding full tilt in her own personal pocket dimension travel pack. Everyone turned to watch as this bag comes sliding down the mountain straight into the village. Everyone saw in slow motion as the bag came out of nowhere. Everyone except Bruce, the oh-so-squishy wizard who rolled a nat 1 on his save. He flipped, literally, end over end, after Frederick clocked him with her bag. Oh, did he flip worthy of the wrath of the proverbial Russian judge. He also landed on a small exposed rock, landing on the back of his neck. A Hawks player is studying engineering, so it was confirmed. Death saves, and I ended the session before anyone could do anything. TLDR, I may or may not be the kind of DM that isn't afraid to punish players for forgetting something or someone mentioned earlier in the same session. Oh, and as a closing remark, yes, Frederick is typically a male name, and this Frederick is female. Why? Because ignoring naming conventions is also a fun way to confuse players. Hello again, brave adventurer, and thank you for saving an attunement slot for us, and even more so, thank you for doing so until the very end of this video. If you have a D&D story that you love that you'd like to share with us, please consider doing so on our official subreddit, r/MrRipper, where we are constantly traversing for tasty tidbits of tabletop triumph and treachery to turn into titillating titles for you to attune to. But as always, if you've got a particularly glorious death to share with us, you're welcome to do so in the comments. If you're a DM or player looking for a group, look no further than MrRipper's Group Finder Discord server. MrRipper and friends made it so that you could find a group. That's why it's called that. If you'd like to join us for our homebrew D&D campaign, it's every Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/fireanddice. If you're just here for the stories, please join us for r/MrRipper story time every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. GMT over at twitch.tv/MrRipperstream. The links are in the description. As always, if you love me and want me to be happy, please consider checking out my TikTok or my Instagram. It'd be such a peach to join me on that adventure you would. This week, I have a challenge for you. I'd like you to identify a new skill that intrigues or excites you, and I want you to reflect on what that would look like in your life. And I'd like you to take the first steps towards acquiring it. I think it'll be fun. Share your results with me in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and supporting us. We love you so much over here at Rip Daddy's Secluded Winter Ski Resort Getaway. Please sub for Nat 20s. Ding that dong for advantage on your next ability check. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and we will see you next time.